Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining B-Sides. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for joining my talk. My name's Alex. I am a 20-year veteran in cybersecurity, probably 19 years longer than I really should have been, but hey, 20 plus years veteran. I'm currently the cyber director for Trust Hogan. I also do mentoring in the industry under M Consulting. I'm a Yorkshire Cybersecurity Cluster Steering Committee group, so we're looking for bolstering the ecosystem in the Yorkshire region and looking for help from anybody who is interested in cyber in our region as well, so please do join up. I'm also a member of the 1 Million Mentors, so trying to dedicate some time for further mentoring of people, younger generations coming up through education. And I also have a brand that I built up after lockdown, which is kind of a hobby, which is very interesting, as Sam mentioned there, baking under Michelin D'Malley. There's nothing Michelin about it, but it is me still. And yes, I do cakes. It's genuine, right? I'm a big guy. I do cyber, but I bake as a part-time. They're fucking amazing. I've just got to toot my own horn. But let's get back to the actual talk itself, right? The bank job. So I have to preamble this a little bit. This was an engagement that I was involved in from a project management, planning, not doing the execution, but I was involved with the team doing the execution through the project, so I understand what they were doing and how they were doing it, what intel they were gathering, and all that kind of good stuff. This was also done for a client of mine as a subcontracting job, so they weren't my client directly. Therefore, there's still NDAs in place, and I have to be very careful about what I say, who I say it about. The other additional preamble piece that I want to put on here is that the organization I was doing the assessment for actually tried this themselves the week prior. So they sent in a couple of guys who walked into the bank and tried to get into the employee section. The guard literally ran across the branch and stopped the guys and escorted them off the premises, duly because they might as well have turned up looking like this. Right. Honestly, it was two guys with backpacks walking into a bank, looking very shady and trying to get into the staff members area. It's never going to work. The problem that we had at that point is that obviously the guards and the security and the staff are on high alert. So it made our job that much more difficult. So this is basically the target that we were looking at. At the branch at the bottom, where anybody could go in, who was a member. They had a door that went in to then this multi-story office block where their head office basically was. Standard things like emergency exits, fire exits, and all that kind of stuff withstanding. But this was typically the place that we were actually looking to hit. Phase one of this whole entire exercise, and I was actually on the, I went down and listened to the red teaming kill chain exercise that was on downstairs, and they were talking about the first phase being recon, and it is knowing what, or they were talking about enumeration, but still recon, knowing what you're coming up against from day one, what your target looks like, what their frequencies of coming in and out of the building looks like, what their comings and goings, what's around is vital to engaging going forward. So we were sitting in cars with long zoom cameras, literally the stuff that's up on here. Obviously, LinkedIn online has a vast quantity of data about who works there, who started, when they started, how often or how long they've been there, all that kind of good stuff. But one of the best ones is the standing in the queue at the coffee shop nearby. A lot of staff members are still going to be having their lanyards on with their IDs. They might not have their lanyards on with their IDs, but their IDs are going to be in their pocket. But it gives you the opportunity to, A, validate identities by actually seeing their faces, but also having your device in your pocket, being able to get close enough to them to take that ID and strip it off and utilize it later on. NCP car parks, just again from a red teaming perspective, they're great if they're local to target. You can get up in them. It's public space. You can get as high up in it. Nobody's going to question there. You can sit in your car looking out of them. You can stand at the edge looking over into a client site. And 9 out of 10 times, if they're off the ground floor, they're not putting any concealment on their windows. So you can actually see in straight into their windows and straight onto the machines. So something to note. Once you've done the recon and you've worked on kind of getting a good idea of what the client looks like and who they are and where they are, we then go into engage. So actually, let's make this work. Take the data that we have, take all the RFID scans and the ID scans that we've got, and actually implement them. And it's astounding knowing how the hackers work on the red teaming side from the cyber perspective, and how much it costs to buy kit and buy licensing and buy the infrastructure to actually start doing a hack. From a red teaming physical perspective, it's pretty cheap. Lanyards are cheap. RFID cards are cheap. 260 quid for an RFID repurposer, magnet strip repurposer, whatever you call it, programmer. This stuff is not expensive, and it gives you the ability to very quickly clone somebody's ID to be able to get in. So coming back to the story, we'd done the reconnaissance. I think the guy actually found a lanyard. I don't know if it was hanging around in the branch or where it was, but we found a lanyard, so that made life a lot easier. And then we'd obviously scan somebody's RFID, so we could get in. And on day one of the actual engagement itself, we were walking into the building just as if we were staff. We were a new member of staff. We did the whole social engineering thing where we go and stand around in the canteen. In fact, there's a slide on that in a minute, but go stand in the canteen, smoking areas and things like that. Make friends, because these are the guys that are going to let you open doors and walk you through. Seen one of these this afternoon as well. Somebody was holding on to one of these. Where's Kira? Is he in the room? No, he's not. But flippers, again, just another device. You guys all know about these things. So once you're into the office, like I say, common thing for most social engineers, go straight to the canteen. Go straight for the coffee. You can stand in there for 20 minutes, an hour. People come in and out, make yourself a coffee, make yourself another coffee, talk to people. It's a social environment, it's a social area. And you get to know people's comings and goings. You get to, again, see IDs and see who these people are and what have you. Make friends. And again, these people will see you through the building if they see you again. I come back to, when we talk about cyber hacking and all that kind of stuff, we're talking about data breaches, right? A data breach is a data breach. It doesn't matter if it's digital or if it's physical. So typically what we're looking for is the messy desk scenario, pulling off some documents from desks, or printers and scanners and photocopiers, bin diving, all that kind of stuff. The bank that we worked in had all that information. I believe we did pull some stuff off of the printer, the photocopier as well. But people put stuff in photocopiers and just, go off, make a coffee, come back, grab their stuff and walk off, forget that that information's there. But it's all still valid. And we love a messy office. We love cables everywhere. Yes, you can follow a cable to a network point where you can then plug something in, right? And people don't notice the new device because it's just another device. So we were, again, as part of all this project, looking for all those typical places where you can plug in a USB point. Obviously, as you're going through, or as we were going through this, the problem with physical red teaming is, when are we going to get caught? When are these guys going to find us out and catch us out and realize that we're not an employee? And the best thing is to try and keep that persistence into the network, into the business, and remotely is the best option, because then you're not physically there and somebody can't question you. So we're looking for all these USB points to plug something in. And again, messier the office, the better. The devices that we were looking at are the typical ones that I'm sure you guys have seen, your land turtles and all that kind of stuff. And like I say, stick a good little sticker on it, and nobody's removing it. Something from IT, particularly if you're just a normal staff member. So we got this to this point where we're in the building, we're in the infrastructure technically because we're sitting there, and we are 2-3 days in, and my man's starting to sweat, because he's thinking he's going to get busted, he's going to get rumbled, he's getting a bit paranoid. Again, you only got so much time in these things before somebody questions you in the wrong way. So we thought, again, well, let's go back to having that remote device back in the network, plugging in and accessing it remotely. But how do we do that? Because this is a bank, and banks kind of go, this is networking 101, because you guys don't know about any of this, right? So traffic outbound, any to any. Traffic inbound, they want to make sure that the inbound traffic's clean, right? Because you don't want anybody getting into your network. Typical rules. Banks, they check traffic both ways. Obviously, they don't want account details going out. They don't want personal information going out, any of that kind of internal data leaking out. So they're monitoring traffic both ways. So you can't just put a LAN turtle on the network connecting back to the C2 and saying, yeah, well, it'll dial home and jobs are good, because it's going to get checked. It's going to get spotted. So you can't do LAN turtles or anything like that. So very quickly, because I'm rattling through this a lot faster than I thought I was going to, if you can't connect something to the network that's going to dial back through the firewall, just quickly putting it out to the room, what could you do? Huh? Wi-Fi? Cellular? Cellular? 4G, 5G, yeah. 3G, 4G. That's exactly what we did. They weren't checking for rogue network devices. They weren't checking for internal Wi-Fi, 3G data connections or anything like that. So we managed to plug one of these in, and at that point, you've created your own external connection, and bang, you're back in the network, being able to monitor and track the traffic. So easy peasy. And we're nearing the end of this, unfortunately, because again, we've only got half an hour, but I've rattled through this in 15 minutes, which is scary. Maybe I should have breathed in between the slides, but anyway. So the last point, bearing in mind that we've done actually breaching into the place, we've done the recon, we've got the LAN turtle on there, 3G LAN turtle, and we've got persistent access. The next thing was, well, what can we do? We've got, I think we had about a day left of the actual engagement. So what more can we do? Well, we noticed that the actual guys in the branch side and the public side were the kind of G4S typical security guards. They're wearing blue Primani suits. Typical kind of security guard stuff, you know. So my man went to go and get himself one of them from around the corner, literally around the corner. And with his handheld RFID, stood on the public side of the branch by the employee's door, asked the first couple of employees coming through, I just want to check your ID to make sure you're legitimately staff members. We've had a bit of an incident, as you guys already know, last week. And the sheeple just queued up nicely for him. At that point, I think we scored probably about another 100 IDs quite easily. That's how we owned the bank. Now, I should have probably preambled this right at the beginning rather than saying at the end, but I have been led to believe that if you walk into a bank with a balaclava and a gun and you steal the money from the bank, you're looking at 5 to 15 years, depending on how badly you do it. If you hack the bank, it starts at 25 years. So let's not, I'm not saying that anybody should. And that's it. That's me. I hope that was enjoyable. I hope you liked it. Have you got any questions? Because I might be able to answer some of them at least.
You said about the cafeteria and about, it's the first place you can go to, make some friends, have some chats. What do you actually say? Because you can't be like, oh, well, I'm Dave from accounts. What if someone says, I run the accounts team and you're not in it, mate? Doesn't that open you up to actually
You'll have to repeat the question.
If we're going into the canteen at the beginning, just to repeat the question for the mic, if we're going into the canteen at the beginning, what are the stories that we kind of use, because we might be bumping into the head of HR or whatever the case is, or someone like that. Well, again, because of the reconnaissance element right at the beginning, you're going to find out who the heads of different departments might be, and therefore you can typically face to name them, right? Again, most of the staff that are going to be coming in there at specific times might be normal staff members. So you can play on a lot of the time. I'm new. I've just started in department. What department you start in? I don't know, IT. Starting IT. You know what I mean? I think as well, if you kind of go down I've just started in the IT route, particularly in a social environment like the cafeteria, the IT teams typically stick to their own in the IT department. And they'll bring in Monster or Red Bull or whatever it is that they're doing. You know what I mean? They ain't in the canteen socializing with people. Do you know what I mean? So you can be that one that goes to the canteen as the IT guy, and you can start having those conversations. And you just, I'm new here. I've just come to go, I haven't brought my Monster with me today. I'm going to go coffee. You know what I mean? And you can have that conversation. You can start, again, you're building rapport with people. And again, hopefully, as you've gone through your reconnaissance, you can face the name of them, figure out what department they worked in very quickly, and then track them back to their department and use that relationship that you've already got with them. Oh, yeah, I met you in the canteen. I'm from IT. Yeah, well, they've just sent me to come and have a look at your machine in HR.
Great, yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions?
You said you had about 5 days. Have you ever had a situation where you needed to go low and slow for months, really get to this, and then strike?
Yeah. So typically, this was one of those cases where it was like it was an emergency job. They had a deadline. My client had a deadline to meet for their client, which was the bank. So typically what we say is that a physical red teaming exercise should be 3 to 6 months. It should be 3 to 6 months, because that enables you to go away, do the recon, do all the planning, do all the setting up of any weaponized malware that you want to try and push out to them, or whatever the case is, to get that persistence into the network from the cyber side of things as well. But it also means that their team, because you're going to have a point of contact in there as your mole in the company who signs everything off and gives you your get out of jail free card, right? But it means that you can say to them, you're involved in this as well. You have to react in the same way as you would if this was a malicious attack. So go away with your team. When we attack you in this 3 to 6 month window, we're not going to tell you when it's going to happen. So act like you would if it was a real hack. Then at the end of the engagement, we'll come back and we'll put our timeline and your timeline together. And then we can say, well, how did your team react to us coming in and doing that? Validates also some of the incident response mechanisms that you have in the business and how people react to attacks. Yes, mate.
Great talk. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
So this is more of your opinion rather than an actual question. Typical penetration testing consultancies, when we recruit, we're looking for technical skill and consultancy skill. What are we looking for in social engineers, and is that a different skill set than your standard pen testing? Is that a different offering?
Yeah.
You should be looking at, because in my eyes, you're probably not going to get the types of people who can comfortably rock up to a bank, talk to people, and go plug in. Like, what are we looking for in people, and how do we make sure we've got that stuff?
So you are going to be looking for somebody who is somewhat technical, because you're going to need to be able to do all the RFID scanning, reprogramming of cards, and getting in. But you want somebody with massive personal skills as well. Somebody who's maybe got a background in psychology, but also an interest in tech. Those guys particularly know the triggers that people are going to have.
Maybe
Ex-military, ex-intelligence. Definitely those people that have had training in that kind of stuff. But definitely people who are more personable, outgoing, but also, I want to say, not memorable, because you want to be able to almost change a figure by changing a hat or taking the glasses off, Superman style. But yeah, personable people, intelligent individuals, slight techie background. Does that answer that?
It does.
Yeah,
I mean,
kind of.
I guess the only grey area is in a typical consultancy that you would say, especially maybe smaller consultancies, they might have that gap.
Yeah.
And if a bank, say you're working with a bank for a while, and they're a client, you're also typically doing technical red team engagement station, and any type of threat intelligence led pen testing from there.
Yeah.
How do you get you guys who are normally pen testers to then step up and then go?
Yeah, I mean, what I'd maybe say in that sense, because again, the physical red teaming takes a specific skill set, and there are very few of them that can do it very, very, very well. So maybe it's more of a case that those are kind of subcontracted out. Again, if you're very much entrenched with a specific client and the client knows your team's faces and you're maybe only a small team, that means that it's going to be really difficult for you to walk in on site without being recognized. And it needs to be somebody from outside the company potentially. But it's only like subcontracting anything else in this industry. There's enough of us that know people who could get you that person, and we're all on reasonable rates. Just to plug that one. Yes, sir.
If you carry a clipboard and hide his jacket anywhere, is that
Particularly if you want to get into amusement parks. Yes, we've all seen the videos, and yes, it does work. But again, I think the crux of it is basically one, leveraging the fact that human beings as generalists are here to help people. So if you're looking a bit confused or a bit dazed or a little bit like, I don't know where I'm supposed to be going with my clipboard and high-vis jacket, somebody's going to come and go, oh, who are you looking for? You're like, oh, I'm doing maintenance over there because I can see you've got scaffolding up. How do I get in there? And they'll lead you through because they want to help. Always looking for that help factor. But certainly looking like you're of a point of authority helps as well, and having some big brass kahunas to walk in does help. Yeah, you've got to have the bottle to do it. You know, if you suddenly get into the front door and you're stumbling and erming and ahhing, and I don't know what my backstory is and I don't know why I'm here, then somebody's just going to go, yeah, trot on, mate. But yeah, high-vis, yeah, it works.
On various engagements you've been on, what's the fastest you've been caught?
Fastest
I
I've
could
been.
probably answer that because me and Kai were working at the same team.
Oh, go on.
We went straight in, reception just looked at the pair of us and went, Kai actually said his actual name and he fished from the wrong account the day before. She went, you said the fish you want yesterday. And the next morning at 7 o'clock in the morning, and Kai's Alex's size, and the poor foreign cleaner opened the door and he just went, hi, morning, and just let himself in and just went straight goose.
Yeah. I would say that the fastest engagement, the fastest we've ever got access into a client's, on the flip side of that, instead of being busted, how quickly have we actually breached? I had a specific client that we did physical red teaming for 2 years on the trot. It was the same receptionist on the front door. It was, and I think he used the same story where he came in and was like, oh, I'm just supposed to do maintenance in your IT. She walked him through to the server, opened the door, and as she's letting him through, sometimes they frown upon us putting people in here, and let him in, right? That was at 8:30 in the morning of the first day. And I had to phone the client because he had us there for the day. I had to phone the client and say, right, I've got good news and bad news. You know, what's the bad news? We were in. You're not even there, we're in. So what's the good news? You've got him for the rest of the day to do training of the rest of your staff. You're still getting billed. I don't know. Good news. I don't know. The question over this side? Sir.
Just a question. If you are engaged in business for like a space of 3 to 6 months or even longer than that, if you sort of fail on an attempt or someone does something, let's say you try to make an attempt to go in, you get busted or it doesn't work out, then would you pull that and be in the engagement, or would you try again, or does that depend on the scope that is set by the client?
Okay, so
repeat the question.
just for the purpose of if we are engaging with the client for 3 to 6 months and we find that we get busted or get stopped somewhere along the line in that period of time, do we stop the engagement or do we continue to find another hole? We would certainly find another hole. There are enough of us in the team to be able to swap faces, so we can put another person to try and do the physical again through another route. We would potentially pause, reevaluate the playbook that we're running as to how we are engaging with the client and therefore trying to breach them, and reevaluate that and try a different play. So again, if we were turning up and just trying to walk through the front door on the first morning and we get stopped, well, let's try and actually organize a meeting at the venue. So therefore they can know us, they know we're coming under a guise of some kind. But certainly we're flexible with that kind of stuff. And we know that there are multiple avenues that an organization is going to get breached through.
I suppose just a follow-up with that. Where would you consider the client to be solid in their defenses? Where would you, after like how many attempts would you consider, okay, these are good, they're following procedure, not letting anyone through?
Yeah.
Just basically the staff are not helpful for the correct reasons.
Yep. Yeah. So again, for the purpose of the mic, where would we draw that line as to where we would stop the engagement and take a client off as being very, very good? I haven't had it happen yet. Just to say, we're still leveraging the human issues that come along with all this kind of stuff. But I would say if we would have to have played through a couple of scenarios. Tried different avenues of attack, different methods of attack, different methods of getting in to have that persistence. electronically, physically, which way we possibly could, within limitations, ethics, and all that kind of stuff. Once we'd tried and failed and exhausted the ideas, because again, it's all a time-based thing. So we have limited time over a period of time because that's how we bill for it, right? So we've still got to think, right, within the time frame that we have we got enough time to be able to execute another attempt, or do we not? Have we tried enough scenarios to say, well, actually, we've covered a really broad range of methods of trying to get into a client. Have we succeeded? Have we failed? And if we failed, it's a really good sign, you know. And I'm looking for a client that could do that, because it hasn't happened so far. So, challenge out there to anybody.
What's the pretext you use the most? What do you find is the most successful? So if someone said to you, what's your go-to like for getting in somewhere, what is like your go-to pretext?
We don't really have a go-to, to be fair. One that has been used quite a lot is the standard BT engineer. You know, it's quite easy to be able to get a uniform off of Amazon or eBay or whatever like that. You know, you can pick up gear that looks similar at least. The joy with those kind of things is, you know, gas engineers, electrical engineers do go on site to do reviews from the likes of British Gas. If you phone up a receptionist and you don't ask them whether you can we have an engineer in your area today. He's going to be at your office at 1:00, just so you know he's coming. You don't give him the option. It's not a question. Can he come? Is that okay with you? No. He's there at 1:00 because he's in the vicinity and we're busy, right? Show him in, show him where your boiler is, show him where your electricity box is, whatever the case is. He'll be wearing British Gas, high-vis jacket, and he'll have his clipboard with him.
Any more questions?
Yes?
Have you ever made somebody cry during the engagement?
Apart from me, when he breached at 8:30 in the morning and I had to go and explain that to the client? No. I mean, again, being down in the red team kill chain 1, ethics is massive, right? Again, there's all sorts of different avenues we go. Phishing's one of them to try and start that ball rolling. East Midlands Rail a few years ago, they phished all their users saying that they got a bonus after the pandemic because of their good work. It wasn't. It was a scam because it was a phish assessment. That's unethical. So there's a line to be drawn. The bad guys haven't got the ethics, right? So they can send those, but we as legitimate companies can't. So we try not to, but I haven't made anybody cry, and nor has any of my staff. So, anyone else? I think we've got a minute or two. Collecting lost. Oh, so going in and saying somebody lost, somebody handed in. Just write that down. That would work as well, though, right? If you go into local areas, and again, when we say that if there's public eateries, coffee shops, anything like that, where people are likely to lose something like that, ask the question. Why not? Part of the recon stuff. You know, as long as it hasn't got their face on it. Because you go, oh, yeah, I'm John Smith, and they go, no.
So I'll take that one back.
There you go. There's that as well. Absolutely. Yeah, let me make a note of that too.
Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you.